The first hint that something extraordinary is about to unfold in the foothills of Mount Olympus comes long before dawn's rose-gold halo lights the ridges. An electric hush settles over thousands of Roman legionaries kneeling to buckle caliga straps they hope will still be wrapped around living ankles by nightfall. Not 30 paces away, a line of horses snorts vapor into moon-paled air, as if sensing that their riders, toughened veterans of Hispania and Illyria, are rehearsing a gamble no cavalry has ever dared against the Macedonian Phalanx. Across a shallow gully, hidden by vineyards heavy with unpicked grapes, the largest sarissa forest the world has yet seen stirs like awakening timber. Tens of thousands of 16-foot pikes vibrating, while men adjust shoulder straps, clear throats, and mumble prayers that Alexander's ghost still walks their ranks. Every man on both sides feels history tightening its grip. If King Perseus can break Rome here, Greece might yet remain Hellenistic. If Consul Lucius Aemilius Paullus pulls off what skeptics call impossible, shattering a phalanx on chosen ground, the patchwork republic will inherit the mantle of empire. There is no middle outcome. Shields flash silver under a last sliver of moon. Ravens wheel low over trampled barley. And somewhere a trumpet murmurs a scale, but does not sound the charge. The battlefield itself seems to pause, caught between an age about to die and an age not yet born, daring you, listener, onlooker, future judge of all that follows, to hold your breath and step into the decisive hour they will one day call the Fall of Macedon. To understand why a stretch of rolling scrub near the little city of Pydna became the arena that toppled Macedonian greatness, rewind 2 full centuries. In 336 BC, Alexander the Great welded Macedonia and Greece into a spear aimed straight at Persia. In 13 blistering years, he carved an empire from the Aegean to the Indus and bequeathed to posterity a simple military gospel: a deep phalanx of sarissa armed infantry at the core, elastic cavalry swinging like a hammer on the flanks, and audacity at all times. When Alexander died, his heirs kept the doctrine, but lost the genius. Macedon, now ruled by the Antigonid dynasty, survived on cachet, while Rome, once a provincial republic squabbling with Etruscans, turned setbacks into textbooks. Victories over Pyrrhus at Beneventum, Hannibal at Zama, and Philip V at Cynoscephalae taught Roman commanders one relentless lesson: flexibility beats grandeur if you survive long enough to adapt. By 171 BC, Macedon's new king, Perseus, saw opportunity in Roman distractions. Rebellions in Spain, uneasy peace with Carthage, and rising calls at home to slow expansion. He rebuilt armies, nourished alliances, and pressed nervous Greek city-states for tribute. Rome, alarmed by reports of Macedonian gold-financing anti-Roman factions, declared war. The opening campaigns were inconclusive: marshy fortresses, scorched grain stores, hit-and-run raids. Senators grumbled, another stalemate like the First Macedonian War. Enter Lucius Aemilius Paullus, a patrician in his 60th year, elected consul precisely because he was famous for turning messy fronts into crisp victories. Paullus inspected battered legions near Thessalonica, corrected pay arrears, re-drilled maniples in the long-neglected art of coordinated pila volleys, and most importantly, scouted the land south of Pydna, where a lattice of dry riverbeds and low knolls might fracture any phalanx foolish enough to advance across it. Perseus, flush with fresh Thracian mercenaries, and convinced that his father's humiliation at Cynoscephalae had been a fluke of fog and hubris, yearned to prove the sarissa unbeatable on open ground. Roman allies, meanwhile, whispered that eclipses and omens favored Macedon. When the summer solstice neared, both armies drifted toward Pydna like iron filings drawn by a lodestone. Neither could see, but both felt. Roman cavalry commander Gaius Cratinus noted the topography first. Behind the Roman camping ground, a stone ridge created a natural fallback line. In front, a wide plain sloped irregularly toward the sea. cut by seasonal torrents, now hardened into undulating ruts, just enough to break a phalanx's knee-to-knee cadence. Paullus smiled the grim smile of a chess master seeing mate develop 5 moves ahead. He dug in, refusing to be lured uphill. Perseus, misreading the delay as Roman reluctance, marched down to Pydna on the afternoon of 21st June 168 BC, encamping less than a mile from Paullus's earthworks. Scouts brought word that Roman supply lines were exposed. Perseus decided on a dawn attack. He believed he would pin legions against their own camp and crush them before cavalry could maneuver. Paullus let his men feast on cooked wheat and sour wine, then ordered them to sleep in full kit. The stage, terrain, morale, and ambition was set. All that remained was to kindle a spark that would melt an empire. The night sky above Pydna is the color of hammered pewter, and a near-total lunar eclipse begins just after the second watch. Macedonian soothsayers interpret the darkening moon as Rome's emblematically she-wolf-fed city succumbing to shadow. Legionaries see the same sign and mutter that Mars is swallowing Macedon whole. Whichever reading one prefers, superstition multiplies tension. Perseus, pacing a silk-lined command tent, reassures nervous officers that gods reveal favor by terrorizing the enemy, not by coddling friends. Paullus, making a quiet circuit of his own palisade, tells centurions, "Men, the moon only darkens to hide our approach inside her cloak." Before false dawn, Macedonian trumpets blare. Phalangites form into 16 deep taxis, iron-capped sarissas, upright like rows of pine trunks fading into gloom. 1,000 Agma cavalry glitter with silvered cuirasses despite pre-dawn dimness. Thracian peltasts, hair knotted high and tattoos swirling down arms, scuttle ahead to sweep aside Roman outposts. Across a narrow ravine, Roman horns answer. Manipular flags, crimson boars, ivory lions sway aloft. Velites don wolfskin, caps already damp from dew, and move to the front, short javelins balanced like throwing darts. The air is thick with the smell of crushed time and nervous sweat. Perseus intends a classic softening. Thracian and Cretan archers to harry. Heavy pike blocks to advance while Agama cavalry swings wide for an encirclement. Paullus counters with a feigned retreat by light troops, luring skirmishers deeper into Roman killing zones. At first, Thracian darts find gaps. Several velites crumple, their high-pitched screams flitting across the plain. But as they pursue, Thracians hit unseen rills that yank ankles sideways. Roman archers hidden behind low stone fences rise and loose a volley. Dark-shafted arrows whistle, thudding into wicker shields. Peltasts falter. The Roman front line falls back in disciplined leaps to a position Paullus marked earlier with cairns. Macedonian commanders, seeing the enemy recoil, order general advance. A sun now clearing Mount Olympus flares off bronze helmets, revealing both lines in brutal clarity. The phalanx crests the first set of ridges, sarissas leveling into one unbroken wall of spear points. Roman infantry waits not in continuous fronts, but in the classic quinconnex, staggered maniples forming negative space corridors. As soon as pikes come within 9 paces, centurions bark the Pila order. 12,000 iron javelins arc skyward, glint once, then plunge. Many embed into angled shields, others strike sarissa shafts, adding sheer weight that drags spearheads earthward. Yet mass and momentum keep the phalanx rolling. The first points stab into legionaries, punching through mail, pinning men to their own shields. A cry of "String it!" They're closing, ripples down the Roman line. Now Paullus plays his first hidden card. Behind each gap stands a double column of principi, ready to thrust sideways. At signal, hastati in front pull apart. Pikes, momentarily without targets, thrust into empty space. Principes flood in from flanks, shields angled, stabbing at unprotected elbows and thighs. Some sarissas drop, cut near the butt ends by axes hastati carry precisely for this moment. Where pikeheads fall, legionaries duck inside minimum spear length and turn ordered warfare into knife fighting. But the Phalanx Corps remains formidable, even disrupted. Its 8 central taxis drive Romans backward step by step, as hydraulic pressure might move a retaining wall. At about the 5th watch of the morning, a remarkable alignment of chance and planning unfolds. The Macedonian center, pressing hard, crosses into a shallow riverbed dry since spring. Its banks look gentle, but are stitched with scree and pothole pits. Pike ranks that trip lose step. Sarissas tangle, shields slip. Roman cohorts on both wings, who earlier gave ground intentionally, wheel inward like jaws of a caliper. Paullus rides behind, yelling, "Ad Clypeus!" close to the shield, reminding men that a phalangite can neither lift shield nor swing a sword when 2 hands grip a 20-foot pole. Legionaries bash with scutum rims, hook pike shafts aside, and drive gladii under ribs. A wedge opens through the Macedonian right center. Perseus, observing from his cavalry reserve, realizes too late that the phalanx has outpaced supporting peltasts. He gallops to his left, hoping to reinforce the fracture with Agama horse. Paullus, anticipating that surge, releases allied Thessalian and Aetolian cavalry hidden behind a knoll. Dust roosters plume as horsemen clash. Roman allied mounts, lighter but more numerous, start to envelop the Macedonian cataphracts. Perseus fights bravely. Later, Roman chroniclers will grudgingly praise his skill, but a sling stone shatters his horse's jaw. Thrown, bruised, and with blood trickling into his beard, he mounts another charger, yet sees the line already bending. Panic flickers along rear ranks whose sarissa points now waver like wheat in crosswinds. Once any segment of a phalanx buckles, geometry becomes catastrophe. Front ranks retreat, jamming rearward. Sarissa butts spike their own comrades. Formation devolves into clumps of men brandishing cut-down pikes like quarterstaves. Romans, masters of compartmentalized violence, attack these islands one by one. A centurion named Scaevola reportedly loses his left hand to a downward pike cut, shoves the bleeding stump into mud to clot, snatches a fallen gladius with his right, and keeps leading. Such ferocity breaks Macedonian morale. On the far left, the elite bronze shields, heirs to veterans who followed Alexander through Persia, begin an orderly withdrawal, but it quickly turns to disorder when allied Illyrians sprint past them, screaming that Perseus is dead. He is not, but rumor has greater horsepower than truth. Paullus signals general advance. War horns roar. Standards lunge forward. Triari, sa, until now crouched in reserve, rise to join pursuit. Phalangites fling helmets aside to run lighter, yet find escape blocked by ravines or Roman cavalry now circling like hounds. Many cast away sarissas and surrender. Others back into dense olive groves where long pikes jar against branches, turning panic into fatal gridlock. Legionaries spear through leaves as if hunting boar. By late afternoon, a shimmering Aegean horizon witnesses the last organized Macedonian unit, a square of about 800, break as arrow clouds from Cretan archers thud into unshielded backs. When sunset stains clouds pink, the plain is a mosaic of bodies, broken pikes, and scuta warped by sword cuts. Roman engineers clear lanes so medics can reach wounded of both sides, a pragmatic gesture. Live captives walk to market better than corpses. Conservative counts list 20,000 Macedonians dead, 11,000 captured. Roman losses hover near 2,000, many during the initial sarissa push. Perseus, with 100 cavalry, flees north to Pella, then to Amphipolis, then inland to Samothrace, hoping sanctuary in the temple of the great gods will shield a king fallen from favor. Paullus, entering the Macedonian camp that night, forbids looting until formal counts are done, yet cannot stop legionaries from murmuring at the treasure heaped in Perseus's baggage trains: silver phialae, Thracian gold torques, and chests of unstruck coin, all proof that Macedon was still rich in everything except adaptability. Rome's consul orders a wreath placed on the mound of fallen Roman soldiers and walks the field with his staff, lanterns casting long skeletal bars of light across corpses whose open eyes mirror stars now blossoming overhead. He pauses by a group of captured bronze shields, many weeping in silent rage, and says in careful Greek, "Your valor was not defeated, only your method." A historian standing near, maybe Polybius, maybe a later embellisher, records the moment as the birth of a military maxim: strategy ages like milk, adaptability like wine. News of Pydna travels on horseback and trireme at a speed rivaling rumor. In Rome, senators break protocol to cheer inside the Curia. Yet Paullus, mindful of Hannibal's long shadow, sends a dispatch cautioning that occupation, not battle, decides conquests. The Senate agrees to dismantle Macedonia into 4 small republics, each forbidden cross-marriage or foreign policy beyond local borders. Divide et impera cast in concrete. 20 years later, those republics will fail, and Rome will annex the land outright. But for now, statesmen prefer indirect control. Meanwhile, Greek city-states that applauded Rome as liberator begin to fear a new hegemon. Intellectuals note that Paullus tours libraries at Pella with more interest than temples, shipping manuscripts to his villa as war spoils of the mind. The message is clear. Roman appetite now includes Greek culture itself. Perseus surrenders the next spring after starvation and betrayal erode his last refuge. Marched in Paulus's triumph through Rome, he does not weep. He simply stares at throngs chanting Macedonia Capta. Iron rings weigh down his ankles. On the Capitoline steps, he stumbles, and children laugh. Too young to know they witness the final breath of a dynasty once tutored by Aristotle. Paullus distributes 750 drachmas to every legionary, 4 times that to veterans, an unheard-of bonus financed entirely by Macedonian treasury. Popular with troops yet aloof, he retires to write campaigning notes that later inspire Caesar's Gallic commentaries. For ordinary Romans, Pydna becomes shorthand for effortless annihilation, forgetting, of course, the nights of drilling, the shoeless marches through thorn scrub, and the terrifying first minutes when sarissas stabbed unchecked. Stand now on the silent plain where vineyards have reclaimed furrows sliced by gladii, and you can almost hear wind shivering through ghost sarissas still rooted in soil. Pydna is less visited than Marathon or Thermopylae, yet its consequence dwarfs many better advertised heroics. Here, the Hellenistic world's last credible bid to dominate the Mediterranean collapsed, not because its soldiers lacked courage, but because its institutions could not evolve. The Phalanx, supreme in flat, predictable arenas, broke on ridges and riverbeds that rewarded units able to pivot, fragment, and recombine. Rome did not so much invent a superior weapon as adopt a superior mindset. Treat every defeat as a field manual upgrade, every victory as an experiment to refine. In that sense, Pydna is less about swords than about software, iteration, flexibility, and decentralized decision loops beating monolithic design. The ground beneath your feet proves the law. Organisms and empires survive by adapting faster than the circumstances that threaten them. So the next time a project, a company, or a personal dream confronts an obstacle that seems carved in granite, remember a midsummer day in 168 BC when granite cracked before fluid resolve. If this tour through clashing pikes and adaptable legions sparked your imagination, Enlist with our channel's growing cohort of history enthusiasts. Hit subscribe, ring the notification bell so each new campaign narrative lands in your ranks, and drop a comment on which forgotten battlefield, Magnesia's thunderous cavalry sweeps, or maybe Teutoburg's ambush in the Germanic forest, you want us to resurrect next. Share this video with friends who still believe old ideas die hard. Pydna proves they die the instant sharper minds march in step. History is not a museum of relics. It's a live workshop of strategies waiting to be reforged. Join us and let's keep those forges roaring.